Hello and welcome to today's video. This is May 2023 and this month I am looking at Lamy, or focusing kind of on Lamy. And the next video for me is this one, which is I'm talking about Lamy Crystal Obsidian. This is an ink review of this ink from the Crystal line. This is it on a colouring card. You can see it's a nice sort of dark, well, it's black, but it's got kind of a green black. There's a nice hint of green under there with some interesting sheen and all that. I'm going to show it on some different kinds of paper. I'm going to show some little tests, and we'll have a bit of a chat about it. Before we do any of that, I just want to talk. Obsidian is a naturally occurring volcanic glass that happens when lava cools, or that's so far what I'm led to believe. This is a piece of obsidian. You can see it's a beautiful, translucent, smooth, glassy texture, which I think this ink actually really looks nice. You know, it's got the same sort of lovely, rich, dark color, and that sort of sheen gives a nice sort of bit of shine to it, like this this rock does. So the ink comes in this box. It's one of the Crystal line, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And the ink is in the 30ml bottle, which is triangular. And it's got the little silver top, and the little band around the end of the cap there is the only place that actually says on the bottle which ink it is. And so this is the bottle for Obsidian. So we start with the ink here on Tomoe River paper. This is the old stock 60H GSM Tomoe River paper. You can see once again that swatch, nice and dark, bit of sheen, all of that. Had it in 2 pens, as it is a Lamy month. I had it in a Lamy Safari with an extra fine, and my Lamy 2000 with a big wet broad medium, just to give sort of an idea of how it will perform in different kinds of pens. Let's talk about these 5 points. The first one I've got here is that it is made in Germany. All Lamy products are made in Germany. I said it's from the Crystal line, which is a line of 10 inks, all with like crystal or rock or gemstone kind of names. You know, there's topaz and ruby and things like that. I've said this is a very cool color. I think that dark, almost black, very, very dark green sort of color I think is really great. But in most writing, it just looks like a pretty solid black. The next point I've said here is that the company has nearly 100 years of history, and that is actually great to know. It's not always been called Lamy, but in the last sort of 60 odd years, Lamy has been what it's been called. More than that actually, but their track record is great for making pens and inks and all those kinds of things. The last point I've put here is I've also reviewed benitoite and azurite from the Crystal line. So check out those reviews. You can search them on my channel. They're really interesting inks. Let's talk about the performance now. First thing is it's got a lovely wet flow. Rich dark concentration. This is a highly saturated, highly concentrated ink. It packs a lot of punch. It says slow dry time, so after 20 seconds it's still pretty wet. Little to no smudge, and there is some, you get like a bit of a green smudge. There's like some bits where it's gotten wet around the place, it just happens. But when I've smudged over there, you get a little bit of smearing because it is a very concentrated ink. And so what happens is once it's dry, if you get it wet with even the oils on your finger, it will start to smudge. So that is something just to be aware of. Hard on low end paper. I thought it's this very solid black tone with a green lean, which you can see in like sort of the water tests and things, a bit of that green coming out. I say cleaning takes effort, but I've yet to see any staining. So I think that's a good point. Often cleaning a pen does take a little bit more effort. Like if you're using it in something like, a TWSBI Eco or something like that, or even a Lamy 2000, with that sort of piston filler, it might just take a little bit more effort to clean out. Extras, I put slight sheen, not in writing. Actually, I'm going to take that back. I've just noticed under this particular, under natural light, I couldn't see it, but under this light, which is a bit more like unidirectional, I can see hits of sheen, particularly in the writing from the Lamy 2000, the big broader line there. I put low shade, no shimmer, and low water resistance. And it's not so much that it's not water resistance, it's just that it is a highly, highly concentrated ink that just kind of goes everywhere. That's, kind of just it kind of like rehydrates and goes everywhere. If we look at the reverse of this page, you'll see that a bit came through on the swatch there, but in the writing nothing has come through. Where the water went down, nothing has come through. It forms fairly well on this Tomoe River paper. Let's now look at it on some other paper. Starting at the low end student notepad paper here, we see there's quite a bit of feathering, quite a bit, and there's a lot of bleed on this other page. This is not a subtle ink, it's not a gentle ink, so not for low end paper at all. Then we have it here on the printer paper, 80 GSM printer paper. Once again, we see some pretty intense feathering going on. And on the reverse of that, lots and lots of feather. Not an ink, as I said, for lower end paper. If we now look at it on Rhodia, we see the lines hold tight, so there's very little feathering. The swatch is really rich and dark, some of that grey-green sort of coming through. Same in where I've done like the smear tests. But where I put the water down, what you see is there's a line held behind, so you can make out what was written there before. But once that ink is rehydrated, it's just gone. It's just completely spread out and gone everywhere. And the reverse of this really shows that. Nothing has come through in the writing, a little bit in the swatch there, tiny bit, but mostly there in the water test. That's why I put the water down and let it dry. So it's kind of really, that ink has really seeped into the paper. Let's do a color comparison now. And the two inks I want to put it alongside are a really solid black in platinum carbon black. And then Lamy black. This is their standard run black, which is an ink I actually really enjoy for everyday use. I think it's a pretty solid ink. It has pretty solid performance, and depending on how you look at it, it's both lighter and darker. So in the darker shades, I think Obsidian has its beat. In the lighter shading, Lamy black is closer to a black. It's less green. Platinum black is, of course, black. But yeah, I think the sheen on Crystal Obsidian and that sort of green undertone makes it a really interesting, unique color. So if we look at the chromatography here, you get a line held behind, and then it goes up through the dark greys and greens to the blues. Pretty much what we get. You see when I show you the back of the swatch, blue has come through there, and you see hits of green in it in the water tests and things like that. So the way this ink sort of spreads out is pretty understandable. So the price for this, I've done the pricing in Australia, which is $35 US, and I've seen it for $16 US. That is for the 30 ml bottle here. Nice little bottle. It's one of those bottles that once you get past a certain point, it's harder to fill from, but it's a nice enough, very simple bottle. The score I have given this ink is 4 out of 5. It's a nice color and it's an option for an interesting black. Things to be aware of is that rehydration of the ink. If you get it wet, it's going to just spread everywhere, and it is not appropriate for lower end paper. It will just eat through everything. But in terms of if you're using good pens on good paper, this is a really, really nice ink, and an ink that is actually a joy to write with. It feels nice in the pen, and I haven't found a pen yet that it doesn't perform quite well in out of the pens I've tried it in. So this was Lamy Crystal Obsidian ink. So thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe, hit the notifications button, all that kind of stuff. If you've got comments or questions, please get in touch using any platforms listed below, where you can comment on this video or drop me an email. If you'd like to support the channel, I'd love to hear from you. It's your support that makes this channel possible. In the meantime, enjoy your inks, enjoy writing, and I'll talk to you soon.